Judy.
Yes.
We get so excited at the Guild when we have a new member. And you have been such an advocate for us. You have brought in a lot of people, and we are
Makes me
so
really happy.
grateful. So what is your knack? What is it that you say to people to get them to actually come in and check us out? What's your secret?
All right, everything is timing for me. After I stopped working full time, I had a lot of time and availability by choice. So I had to find very interesting things to do. And I went to a class at Northwestern Alumni. Mm-hmm. I was sitting in the back row, and I fell upon this woman who was just knitting herself away, and I didn't know anyone. And we started talking, and I said, "Hi, I'm Judy. I'm from, Bannockburn, and this is my first class that I've ever taken. I've been working forever." And she looked at me, she said, "Are you looking for things to do?" I said, "Well, interesting things. I'm a people person." And she said, "Well, let me tell you about the Guild." I said, "The what?" She said, "The Guild." And she exposed me to this program. So going forward, many, many years, I meet a lot of people in everything that I do, whether it's exercising or whether it's philanthropic projects I'm involved in or whatever I do. Mm-hmm. And you kind of talk to them, where do you live? What do you do? How do you spend your time? When they're not working, people have to have a place to spend their time.
So you interview them.
I kind of do.
You really do.
And what are you doing that's interesting? Yeah. And then if I think that they're interested in learning and meeting new people, gaining new ideas, I say, well, I found this gem in Evanston, and it's affiliated with the university that is just an amazing source of information. And it's once a month from maybe September, October to May, and I have found it enlightening in many ways. And then if I think that they're interested, then I go further. And then if I think they're really interested and I like them, I say, "Why don't you come as my guest?" And they're so flattered. And that's how I've gotten a lot of people.
Tell me a little bit more about some of the benefits. I mean, what do you get out of coming in for a program? And just,
Well, I think the programming is phenomenal. Mm-hmm. I like the diverse, programs, old and new, art, history, education. What do I get personally out of it? It makes me smarter. It makes me more interesting to other people. I mean, I can go on and tell you all of the things that I have found incredibly interesting, places that I have visited that I never knew existed. A glass museum. I could go through program by program, but basically it makes me interesting and also stimulates my intellectual curiosity to look things up. We had one lecture this year on the First Ladies in America, and they were rated by this Siena Research Institute. And I thought, that's really interesting. Like, what are the criteria for them to rate these First Ladies? So then I looked up, the Research Institute. I wanted to know other things that they did. So it really it stimulates my interest in a lot of things.
And sometimes, I'll hear someone say, I wasn't really planning on coming to the meeting. The title of the program, it didn't have that much appeal. And at the end of the program, they'll come back up and say, oh my gosh, this was incredible. Tell me a little bit more about maybe one of those aha moments where you came in thinking, I don't know anything about this, but all of a sudden you really became engaged with what you were hearing, an aha moment.
Well, there were two this year. One was on the Black experience. This woman, Chandra, I think her first name was, she came in and it's her job right now. She's a young woman, and her job is to document the Black experience of her peers and historically also going through the university, Northwestern University, and it was fascinating. And the pictures and the letters and, people back in the day had diaries of what it was like to be a student here. I thought, I didn't expect to find it as interesting as I did, but given everything that's going on in the current world, I think something that I really wanted to know about. Another thing happened, Henry Binford. He is really a very famous professor. He's, Harvard graduate. He spent his entire career here. And he did one on, Brown versus the Board of Education.
That's right.
In 1954. And I thought, what is going on now? It was the impetus of the time of the civil rights movement. Everything in history that we know of really stemmed from, those days and those experiences. And that took me into looking to read a little bit more about it, finding something to share with my book club, on what's going on in segregated schools. And now in 2025, Dr. Binford could bring that whole issue back into, and where is it going now? So it's kind of like we've learned things in a historical perspective.
True.
And then we bring it back into the here and now. And that's what I found about both of those lectures. Fascinating.
Another thing I wanted to talk about is the social component of the programs. And I wanted to know if that is a benefit, following the program, what happens, the sense of community.
Right. Now it is more than it was when I first started. I was kind of quiet at the beginning. This year I brought in 2 women that I know. They were both transplants from Michigan. Mm-hmm. They did move to, Chicago. And they, again, were looking to broaden their horizons. So I told them about the Guild. They both immediately joined after the first class. This is the one time for me to see them once a month,
Very true.
And it's fun for me. I have other friends that I've made, and they've become like a monthly check-in, because whether we go out socially outside of the Guild or not, this is a time I know we can just, have eye contact and communicate with them what's going on, what's happening. Some people travel, they go in and out of town, but are you going to be at the Guild on Monday? So there are people that I've seen people here that attend, go to my gym, and it's like, so how are you feeling? It is, the social component is just touching base. Then making a decision whether you want to go further or not.
Now, this past year, there's been a mixture of programming that you've attended. You experienced a couple of the art tours with our curator. And I'm wondering, is there any part of our programming, is there anything that you'd like to see more of?
Well, let me first talk about the art.
Oh, the art,
of
yes.
Everything that I've done in my life, art is not one of them. I'm not creative in that way. I love going to museums and learning about things, but through the Guild and your participation and Madeline's, art came alive. All of a sudden, I started to envision the artist, the decades, the time, where it came from. Then I started to think about the women who started the Guild at the exposition, how they went out to find pieces of art to start the Guild collection.
The collection.
I had never thought about stuff like that. And I enjoy seeing it immensely and learning about all the different pieces. And I'm embarrassed to say I've had my parents and grandparents passed away due to my age,
Sure.
as one would expect. Did I give away some wonderful things that I didn't know? Because I really did not value the things that were in their house. I don't think I would do it again. Really, that's one of the things I kept on seeing when I looked at little pieces. I said, that looks familiar. I think I may have seen that, on one of our tables at, my grandmother's house. That was really strange.
Yeah.
But I didn't, you can't be upset about things that you don't know. So that's kind of like what I find with all the art history, music. Oh, we had a woman playing a harp this year.
Oh, yes.
She was amazing.
Yes.
And she said she may be one of the only ones in the world who played this double string harp. It was fascinating.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
yeah.
I enjoy that.
That is interesting. When you come in and you sit in Scott Hall, there are some portraits of some of our founders on the wall. Do you ever feel a connection? I mean, we're talking about a group that was formed over 130 years ago.
Right.
Do you feel any kind of a connection to the founders?
Well, when I look at them, it's funny. I think they were the movers and shakers of their time.
Yes.
I mean, they came to this settlement, which it was.
Yeah.
And they had some connection to the universities. They were educated. They were out there, and their husbands were doing, the classes. But there were women of the founding women who were graduates, but primarily it was a male-dominated university.
True.
And they thought it needed a woman's touch in terms of bringing in fine arts and, all the things that men really don't think about. So I thought, it's nice to be connected. I consider myself a mover and a shaker in some ways.
Right.
So to be affiliated with that, it's a gift. Being a part of something like this is a gift because it takes you down many roads.
It does.
Yeah.
It does. I agree. I totally agree. Okay.
Yeah.
That's great. Thanks.
You're welcome.